do not use more than 4 sprays a day.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is good. This makes sense. Because as I was reading through it, I was like, well, if 4 is good, 8 is probably better. And it's like...
And the warning is also like subtext in Russian as well.
Right. Underlined. There's arrows pointing to it.
Don't feed yourself after midnight.
Yeah.
Bright lights might kill you.
Never get yourself wet.
Never get yourself wet.
Hello and welcome to the Games That Made Us podcast. I'm Brent. I'm here with my friend Kirk. Say hi, Kirk.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yes! and pour one out. We are not, as always, joined by our good friend Benny.
He's fired.
Yes, we decided we were going to go on without him. No, he is currently packing with his beautiful wife for a trip out of town. So
Albuquerque, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Somewhere where it's... I was going to say somewhere where it's hot, but it's fucking hot here.
Jesus.
But yeah, somewhere drier, deserty, somewhere with scorpions. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you drinking this morning?
You brought over. It is El Jimador tequila, like seltzers, cocktails. But yeah, it is a grapefruit Paloma, and it is quite tasty, although you and I were discussing more of a lemonade, like a grapefruit lemonade flavor.
Yeah, it smelled really good. It smelled like a freshly cut open ruby red, like the big fucking Texas ruby red goddamn grapefruit.
Right.
But then you drink it and you're like, oh.
Tastes like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, well, so for all of our fan, it's like 10 a.m. here.
Yeah. And
I had a quick thought earlier. I'm going to open this.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
This one's the margarita.
Ooh.
Oh, wow, that's heavy pineapple. Whoa.
All right, I got to try that.
Yeah. So I was like, it'd be kind of weird if we weren't drinking, right?
Yeah.
So, and my wife's with me today. But we did hit up the liquor store at like 9:30, and that's not weird.
No.
We go in there, and I'm looking for just anything kind of breakfasty. Originally, I was thinking of just bringing a bottle of wine since I'm going to be going to a winery tomorrow anyways.
Nice.
But I'm like, no, because like wine's, expensive.
Yeah.
Or all the shit that I had available was kind of pricey. I'm like, well, I want to, and even then, that's like, I don't know, that's still kind of weird drinking wine that's not like a mimosa at 10 in the morning. So we go to the liquor store, and I was thinking like tea or something.
Yeah.
And then I saw that. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. But it's like...
Oh, my God. Jesus.
Right? Yeah.
That is...
Heavy pineapple.
And heavy coconut, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Pina
coconut. Yeah, okay.
That is a pina colada. It's actually a pretty decent pina colada.
Yeah. That's way more impressive than the Paloma.
Yeah, that's a better pina colada than the other one was a Paloma.
Right on. Okay.
All right.
Well, some uplifting news. Life isn't so terrible after all.
I like the idea that you were just like, you woke up this morning and you were like that close to the edge. You're like,
oh, man. Well, after yesterday's migraine I had, like I left work early because I developed a migraine out of nowhere. And I could feel it coming. And if anybody out there, like fan, subscriber, teacher, mother, sacred lover, if you've ever had a migraine, once it gets worse, you borderline can't drive.
Yeah.
So once you identify it, get the hell out of the office and get home, lock yourself in a dark room.
Yeah.
And I didn't drink. It was Friday night last night, and I normally reserve drinking for the weekends. I'm a good boy, and I listen to my doctor when he keeps chastising me all the time, and so no drinking during the week.
Yeah.
So the weekend is the only time I get to drink. Last night I didn't get to drink. I just kind of hung out as long as I could and watched the Olympics with the wife.
Right.
And I went to bed at 8:00.
Oh, yeah.
And I slept all the way until about 8:30 this morning. And I woke up kind of, I think I felt better, but kind of jaded.
Yeah.
I only kind of wanted to kill myself.
Yeah. Like 6 out of 10.
Yeah. And this is making it better.
Yeah. But yeah, so we are gonna have to carry on without him, but fear not, fair single fan, he will return. in the next episode.
I kind of feel like from the conversations we had with him, though, he was a little more excited not to be a part of this.
Yeah. This one, I don't think he's super sad to miss. We are going to be talking about one of my favorite games, and this is one that I will admit I have some pretty thick nostalgia goggles for. But we are going to be talking about Bubsy in Claw's Encounter of the Furred Kind, which is a 1993 game for Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. And in 1990 goddamn 7 was ported to Windows as Super Bubsy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to put everyone in the headspace of, you're a kid, you go to the fucking Office store, where's the only place I ever found fucking Windows games. And they've got Total Annihilation and Age of Empires and Fallout on the shelves, because it's 1997. It's the beginning of like the explosion of like great PC games. And you're like, nah, fuck that. I want a buggy port of a 4-year-old Super Nintendo game. That's what I want to be playing all summer long.
Yeah, and then the port to Windows 95 too is developed by ATI Technologies.
Okay.
You know who that is?
I don't.
That's AMD. That's modern day AMD.
That's
the very processor that's in your machine is AMD.
I didn't know they did software at all.
So ATI Technologies was originally, like, way back in the day, well, not even way back, even in the early 2000s, ATI Technologies was specifically a graphics card kind of making company.
Yeah.
That's what they were known for. But before then, from what I understand, they did make games here and there, and I think that's kind of how they got into the GPU market.
Which makes sense.
But at some point, So think of ATI like NVIDIA. You know NVIDIA?
Yeah.
ATI was that.
Right.
But at one point, AMD, who is also a company, Advanced Micro Devices, bought ATI.
Okay.
So that's why even when you download the newest drivers for even your modern GPU, and it's an AM, and it's and if it's a AMD based GPU, like the logo is very, very reminiscent of the original ATI logo.
Huh.
So, like, go to your taskbar in the bottom if you see that like red box and whatever. If you look at the original logo for ATI, which I'm going to show Brent, like, sorry fan, you don't get to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, that kind of looks like the icon in my taskbar.
All right, I'll put that in the show notes. But that's funny as hell.
Yeah. So yeah. Partially developed by ATI Technologies. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. So the people, like the precursor to the company that made my CPU and GPU, or at least the actual GPU and the CPU proper, they helped with the port for this game to PC back in the 90s. And it's like, what? Like, you mean the company that's literally giving Intel a run for its money right now did this fucking port?
So next time I have fucking graphics card issues, I will just, shake my fist to the sky and say, "Curse you, Bubsy."
That'd be appropriate.
All right. Well, TIL. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So, 1993 Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, developed by Accolade. And Kirk, I know you had something that you wanted to mention about Accolade.
Oh, Accolade, I remembered from way back in the day, because he created the Test Drive series, which I think is still ongoing. I really don't know. I haven't played a Test Drive game for a very, very long time. I just remember getting hit in the nostalgia balls, seeing the Accolade logo pop up for Bubsy, because I'm like, that looks really familiar. And I remember...
And it's super cool. It's got the bullet thing flying across the bottom.
And because I played a lot of Test Drive 5, specifically Test Drive 5, but way back in the day when I was a kid, so late 90s. And I think at this time... I'm confident Accolade was still around, but the co-founder of Accolade is also one of the co-founders of Activision.
Right.
Which is like a big company even today, or Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Even though it's a shitbag of a company now. But still.
Yeah.
It's interesting history. Just how long some of these companies go back.
I'm saying, right? Like, it's weird now. And honestly, like, we were, speaking of Blizzard, right? We were just talking about them. And, like, their origins going all the way back to, like, the very early 90s. I think with gaming being as, fast-paced and ever-changing as it is, the fact that some of these software developers have been running for 30, 40 years is kind of shocking.
And you look at a lot of their original founding dates, and they're just like right after the video game crash.
Yeah. Yes.
I think there's a passion of a lot of these people that wanted to, like, took video games seriously, and they're like, all right, I'm going to create this company. I'm going to make good games. I'm going to bring it back.
That's a great point. Yeah, because like if you look at a lot of the Japanese developers, they started in the 70s and early 80s, whereas almost all the American developers started in the late 80s after the crash, like coming back up. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of those people had been working for fucking Mattel or whoever else before then.
Mattel, right? Rare, Milton Bradley.
Yeah. God, fucking Milton Bradley.
Yeah.
Bubsy, 1993. It's a platformer, and it's a platformer in the specific subgenre that we used to call mascot platformers, which is hop and bop. It's not precision platformer. It's not, we're not talking fucking Celeste here or Super Meat Boy. We're talking about goofy, lighthearted. Your
Mario, your Sonic.
Yes.
Later Vector Man. The ones we've already talked about.
Yeah.
That sort of jam.
And this is a genre that has largely disappeared other than kind of Mario and Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is part of the reason, because one of the things I want to talk about with this game is I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, but I also recognize that it's pretty mediocre. It's not any kind of like great, like seminal work of 90s video game design. But I do think it gets unfairly maligned because it's a kind of game that kind of gets shit on in general. Like, if you were there in the 90s, what most people were playing was mascot platformers, one-on-one fighters, and sports games.
Specifically 2D platformers.
Yes.
That's also important to note.
Yes. Hell yeah. And so I think it's important now because, people going back and looking at these games, when we talk about Bubsy, it's not fair to compare it to Super Mario World. It's not fair to compare it to Sonic 2.
Nope.
Because those are the two best titles in that genre. You need to compare it to Arrow the fucking Acrobat, Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel, and Zool, Ninja of the Ninth Dimension.
Fuck, even Lode Runner.
Right, yeah. Fucking, even New Adventure Island. That's the fucking Dino City. That's the kind of games that this was a part of. And so it would be like if in 20 years the FPS genre had totally died out and somebody had only played, I don't know, like Doom and Quake and Halo and Half-Life, and then you showed them, I don't know, fucking Fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, this isn't any good. It's like, no, it's actually great. It's just not one of the top 4 shooters of all time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the thing that I think gets lost in the shuffle. Because when people, the retro gaming space now is so dominated by dudes in their late 30s and early 40s who want to talk about JRPGs like they gave a shit about them in the 90s because they fucking didn't.
They didn't. Nope.
No. We were playing Street Fighter, we were playing Madden, and we were playing Bubsy. And I fucking know you were, you piece of shit. Yeah. Don't give me any lies about how you were playing Earthbound. You fucking weren't.
No, you weren't.
Nobody was.
I didn't play Earthbound until college.
Right,
because other people wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. So I'm like, all right, well, I got to figure out what's going on here.
Absolutely.
I would say you had referenced how some of it's kind of making a comeback.
Yeah.
Even like 2D platformers.
Yeah.
You think Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Very good example. A Hollow Knight.
Great
but
game.
I think those games were... Shovel Knight is kind of more of a traditional 2D platformer, where Hollow Knight's more of a Metroidvania, but it's still a 2D platformer.
Yeah.
So it's interesting seeing those games make a comeback after so many years of obscurity.
But I wanted to talk a little bit about Bubsy and kind of how I came to this game. And I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on that as well.
For sure.
But so I've mentioned how... we got the Super Nintendo at a time in my life and my family's life when we didn't really have much. We had 2 games with it. We had Super Mario World, which was the pack-in, and then we had King of the Monsters, which is a horrible monster-themed wrestling game that I strongly recommend people avoid. But So what that meant was, after I had played Super Mario to the point where I could literally play it with my eyes closed, rentals were the place that we went. And rentals were such a huge part of gaming in North America in the 90s. And we had a Funko Land, which is one of the two stores that wound up becoming GameStop. I think it was Funko Land and EB. Mm-hmm. We had a Funko Land down the street from us in Texas. And they had this, it's like a fucking core memory, right? Okay? It's like one of these things that I will always remember. You walked in, and this had to be specifically 1993. You walked in, and to the left, there was a giant Neo Geo sign with a little paper price chart that you could take out, and that was it. Everything else was under lock and key in the back. Mm-hmm. But you could look at the little price chart, and, oh, this costs $1,000. Okay, I'm going to put this back. Mm-hmm. And then to the right, there were two giant cardboard standees on either side of the rental games. And one was Brutal Paws of Fury, which is like a cartoon one-on-one fighter that got released on every platform. And the other one was Bubsy. And I would have been 6 or 7 years old. And so we were cat people. Like that, my parents always had cats my whole life. They still have cats.
But you're fucking allergic to cats.
Yes, I know.
How did that work?
It didn't.
That's shocking. I never knew that about you.
Yeah, dude.
I knew you were like, that's one of the reasons why it's hard for you to come to my house unless you have a shit ton of Benadryl because you're so allergic to cats. So you saying, yeah, we were a cat house. I'm like, fucking what?
Spent a lot of time outside. Yeah, no, well, yeah, not getting too deep into that. I'm glossing. But we had cats, and so this, 6-foot standee of this adorable cartoon cat, I was like, he's so cute. I want him.
As you're trying to pull open your puffed eyeballs from your allergic reaction to actual cats. It's like, oh, another cat. This is cool.
Just like fucking mainlining Benadryl and Allegra. It's like, hang on, I'm gonna do another.
Man, it's getting really hard to breathe.
Yeah. do another line of fucking Benadryl, and then get back to my Super.
It's really hard to play this game, and my hands are so fucking swollen. What's that all about? I'm gonna pet my cat now. Totally oblivious to what's going on.
I like the idea that I'm just like surrounded by cats, like they're just like covering
They're
me.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, man.
Bubsy was like one of the first games I remember renting, and it was perfect because my only real experience with 16-bit style like 2D games at that point was Super Mario World, and my favorite thing to do in Super Mario World was to get the cape and float all over. And Bubsy, one of his few abilities is he can float. Not quite as well as Mario, but I think that's kind of a nice metaphor for the game as a whole.
It's more of like a heavy glide, really.
Yeah.
Like, if you get speed going, you can kind of glide for a ways, but if you have no momentum...
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, you're just floating to the ground, that's it.
But the nice thing is if you can chain... Yes. Hitting enemies, you can stay in the air for a really long time.
Until one of them spontaneously fucking kills you because you were a pixel off or whatever.
Yeah, we'll get to hitboxes.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get to fucking hitboxes. But so this was kind of my second or third console video game that I really played, like put a significant amount of time into. And so I have a ton of nostalgia for it. It's a very bright, very colorful. When I was an adult and trying to like rebuild my video game collection, my retro gaming collection, Bubsy was one of the first games that I went out and looking for. And I may have mentioned on the podcast before, when my wife and I were living out in St. Louis, we had a flood. And it just took everything. But I'll always remember because it's tragic, but it also made me laugh out fucking loud. I had been looking kind of passively for Bubsy for like 15 years at that point. And I had just found it at the fucking mall in Chesterfield in St. Louis. I picked it up for like $5. I brought it home. I was like, this weekend, I'm going to get a chance to play this. And I set it on our entertainment center. And then the next day, I get a call from my wife, and she's like headed back to our house, or our apartment. And she's like, hey, babe, the apartment's underwater. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? She's like, the building is underwater. We lived in a 2-story apartment building. The entire thing was covered with water because the Army Corps of Engineers had opened up like a couple levees so that downtown St. Louis didn't flood. And it all backed up into the Merrimack River, and like a whole bunch of University City where I was living flooded. And she's like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, don't go in. Back up and wait. And by the time I got there that night, and I left work, but by the time I got there, the water had receded. And Aaron and I were sitting in the car looking down at the apartment. I'm like, you stay here. I'm going to go in, and all I'm going to get is your wedding dress. That's all I care about. I'm going to get the wedding dress. I'm going to see if I can get our pictures and like our important documents.
Yeah. Firstborn. Maybe not.
Luckily, we didn't have kids yet.
Well, you don't now.
Yeah, well, now I don't. Yeah. Fuck him. He was an asshole. Anyway.
Yeah. Just cried all the time.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Yeah, Jesus. I'm trying to play Bubsy.
Yeah. Every other day, it's food.
But so I'm like, okay, I gotta get these like important things, and I don't want her to see the state of it because I know it'll make her, really upset. So I go up to the fucking apartment, and I hear this banging from the inside of the door. Like it's just...
Yeah, it was your firstborn trying to get out.
Right, yeah. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there like just head in hands. Like there's cars in the parking lot that are still full of water. Like the water's like draining out. And I'm standing there, I'm just like, fuck, like a raccoon or something got in. There's some kind of animal in there. I'm like, God damn it, I don't want to deal with this. Like, this is a shitty day enough already. And I open up the door, and there was about 2 feet of standing water in our living room that all whooshed out. And that pounding on the door was Bubsy and my Super Nintendo had knocked off of the entertainment center and were smacking against the door with the water going back and forth. And so as I opened up the door, Bubsy went shooting off into the parking lot. I was like, no! So I didn't get a chance to play that copy of Bubsy, but I have one now. But so, yeah, it's like I say, it's a game I have a lot of nostalgia for. I'm now on my 3rd copy of it. Hopefully, like a fucking tornado doesn't come and lift it up and take it away from me. So, what about you, man?
Oh, yeah. So, right off of what you're saying as far as rentals, because if our audience is pretty youthful, they have no idea about entire businesses that were centered around renting video games and movies.
Which was fucking nirvana. It was like every chance you got to go was so exciting.
So unlike Brent, though, I didn't have a Funko Land or anything like that. It was, I've said it up and down. It was a very rural area.
Yeah.
So rural where to rent movies and video games, it was often either a mom and pop store on Main Street, if they were able to keep alive, or the fucking gas station.
Yeah.
So my options were limited. The only time we could ever go to an actual chain is if we drove, the 14 to 20 miles down the road. But then, sometimes video games, especially back in the day, if they were popular enough, you had to bring them back the next day.
Yes.
Which, a lot of movies you rent will give you 2 days or a week or whatever, depending on how new it is. Video games are almost notorious back in this day for you get it for one night. It sucks.
Yeah.
Or the weekend or whatever. And we never really, even in the bigger town nearby, we never had a chain, at least that would last for a significant part of time. It was changing owners all the time.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's kind of scary to rent from a place like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we rented a lot of movies and video games from the local Amico, because Amico still fucking existed back in this day before BP bought them. And I remember going into the local gas station and they had...
Is that what happened to Amico?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident BP was the one who bought them out.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I'm like, because, yeah, there were Amico stations everywhere when I was a kid. Oh, that's so fucking weird.
I think Amico still exists on its own in some capacity as STP, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I don't know the history of a lot of these oil companies, but I know at least the gas stations, every Amico I ever saw were eventually converted into BPs. Now, I think Amico may not have been actually bought by BP. Maybe they just rebranded STP, and maybe BP owns them. I don't know. Yeah. But Amico...
I had an STD from a BP.
STD from a BP. STP. Yeah.
Letters are fun.
Yeah, letters are fun.
Yeah.
And the gas stations, obviously, because they need to sell other shit.
Yeah.
Their video rental and video game sessions.
Capacity is probably limited.
Capacity was very small.
No.
And so each one was also heavily used because, I mean, you have an entire small town of people having to rent the same thing because that's all they have. At best, they'd have 2 copies of the same thing. Grocery stores also.
Yes. When we moved to Missouri, that's where there was a grocery store in town.
The town my mom lived in. My parents divorced when I was like 7. So when I was at my father's house, I'd have to rent stuff from the gas station. When I go to my mother's house, it was the grocery store.
Right.
But either way, I would say the grocery store had a bigger selection, but more movies than video games back in the day.
Yeah.
But still, slim pickings. And we never had any fancy cutouts. Like, if there was, it was for like fucking True Lies or something, or some movie from way back in the day in the 90s.
Yeah.
Or Die Hard 2. Electric Boogaloo, whatever that one was called.
You better like action movies and rom-coms. If you don't like action movies and rom-coms, it's going to be fucking tough in rural America.
Oh, great. Thanks for the flashback there. That is so fucking accurate. Like, most of those movies were either rom-coms or action movies. There's very little of anything else.
They just needed, in like 1998, they just needed to make a movie with Meg Ryan and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then everybody would have gone.
I'm already thinking of names like, what would that movie be called? Like, Just Got Guns or something like that? Commando Got Mail.
Oh my God. Yes.
Just Got Predator.
Yeah. French Kiss with a Vengeance.
Yeah. Oh, man. But I remember, so just about every game there at one point, I didn't matter at which place, I had played through just damn near all of them.
Yeah.
Some of them hits, some of them big misses.
Right.
I remember seeing Bubsy. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, like a cat with his little exclamation point t-shirt and all that shit. Like, how bad can this be?
Did you see the Bubsy...
the mascot promotional picture. That's fucking terrifying.
He's horrifying.
He could be in Five Nights at Freddy's.
He is. I'm pretty sure he's my sleep paralysis demon.
Oh my God. It really does look like something out of Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah. It's really fucked up.
I think that's going to be our the image for this episode.
Please do. Yeah, don't use the actual box art, just promotional art.
His dead, soulless eyes.
And it wasn't even like, since it was back in the 90s, like mascots were still pretty clunky and not like tailor fitted. So he's got like a really pear-shaped body, which is the exact opposite of what Bubsy looks like. So it makes him even more strange.
Oh my God, he's so shitty.
Oh my God. It looked like they tried to convert like a college mascot costume.
Yes. Yes.
So, like, maybe the Wildcats in the area went defunct. Yeah. And they're like, let's put a fucking white t-shirt, paint a red exclamation point on him and be like, Bubsy.
We got a deal. This junior high changed their fucking mascot. Yeah. Let's put him in a white t-shirt. Parade him around at CES.
Oh, God.
And honestly, I would not put that past fucking Accolade. That's excellent.
No, I rented Bubsy because it looked interesting, and of course, because video games, like video game magazines, they existed, but they were few and far between. And then when you live in an area, it just might as well have not existed.
Right.
Internet wasn't really a thing, and even then, the video game reviewing was, again, really few and far between.
And what so there was bad.
Yeah. It was. What was it? That asshat McNamara? I think that's his name from IGN that everyone fucking hates, and I do too. Like, what a shitbag. Fuck you. Hey, every episode I have to just shit on somebody.
Yeah.
So,
hey, David Wise made it this time.
I was gonna make that joke, but it's like I love David Wise. Yeah. That was more of an endearing kind of thing. But you're still a dead man. Anyways. Oh man, no. Anyways, yeah. So back in that day, they always say don't judge a book by its cover. That's all you had to go by with video games. So they really took a lot of time to put as much information as possible on the front and on the back just to give you a taste. Yeah. They really did that with Bubsy. The front main cover is fucking crazy. Yeah. There's a lot of art on it.
Yeah.
I remember bringing it home and almost being instantly pissed off. The last family console we had was a Sega Genesis, and I rented it on the Sega Genesis. We never had a Super Nintendo. Played it on Genesis, and if memory serves me correctly, I think I just got pissed off and stopped playing.
Yeah,
and it's a difficult game.
Yes,
this game had a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog feels. In fact, the creator himself even said that he took a lot of influence from Sonic the Hedgehog. And it shows in this game, like, my God, can you get a lot of speed going?
Yes.
But there are so many fucking enemies. And it's like, okay, Sonic hits an object. He, throws out all of his rings, but you're still alive. You can, as long as you collect more rings, you can get hit again later.
Right.
Bubsy is like, fuck that.
Right.
Take that notion and throw it out the fucking window.
It has the speed of Sonic, but
not the forgiveness.
Right. It's the level design is more. I hesitate to even call it Mario-like, because honestly, what it is it feels like a B-grade Genesis game, because there's a lot of levels where you go like up to the right and then back to the left and then up and down, you know what I mean? It's very whereas most Super Nintendo games were left to right.
I know it's in chapters, but after like I would say after World 3, so after the desert canyon whatever.
Yeah,
that's when it gets like more vertical and weird.
Yeah.
The first 3 ones are pretty linear, which are those are fun. But
yeah, the back to so there's help me, because I might forget, but I believe you've got the first world is basically just like
a woodland forest.
Yeah, and there's some towns and cars, and it's very bright and colorful. It's what's on the front of the box. Then there's the second world is the carnival
circus. Yep.
Yeah, which is so much fun. That's my favorite part of the game. And there's some secrets to discover, and there's some cool stuff. And I feel like it's the world that suffers the least from encouraging you to build up speed and then punishing you for it.
Yeah.
Because you can go up and down on the roller coaster tracks.
Yeah, it has roller coaster tracks, and they encourage you to run on them until they don't.
Until you okay. So, let me get through the worlds, and then let's talk about the gameplay and kind of the hitboxes, because I think that's going to be our biggest complaint. But then there's the theme park. Then there is
the trains. The trains in the canyon.
Into the canyon. It's like a Western themed desert, like Old West kind of feel. The Woolies, who are the bad guys, are wearing little cowboy hats. It's very cute. This whole game's very cute. And then it goes to the like big forest. Where
like a rainforest kind of deal.
Yeah. And that world is much more vertical. And there's a lot more backtracking. And then you get to space, right?
No, there's
another one.
There's also kind of like a bamboo jungle kind of thing.
Oh, that's right.
That level fucking sucks. And I want to say there's one in between that too, but it's escaping me.
Yeah, and then the very last world you get
is in space. Yeah.
And that's just a single level of you being in the spaceship of the Woolies. So the basic premise of this game, if there is one, is that you're Bubsy the Bobcat and you're collecting wool balls, yarn balls from an evil race of aliens who also kind of look like cats that are called Woolies.
I don't know.
I don't understand the lore. I don't think they understood the lore.
But it was the 90s. Like, fucking, if you really look at Sonic the Hedgehog, does anything in there really make a lot of sense?
Oh, fuck no.
Just some fat scientist dude turning animals into robots? Like, that's fucked up, man. Sounds more like some sort of Cronenbergian kind of thing.
Well, and then you got, what's Mario? Well, he's an Italian plumber, and he's jumping on the heads of turtles. Yeah. Why? I still love, did you ever see that YouTube video where it's Mario jumps on the turtle? And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other turtle, his name was Gary. I step on the Koopa. You didn't step on the Koopa. His name was Gary Rivers.
Doesn't it show him, like, going through rehab with, like, this cracked shell and everything, too?
I think so.
Or is that like a part two?
Oh, my God. There's not much to talk about in terms of, like, plot, but let's get into the gameplay a little bit, and this will be the part where I think our anger will start to show, because, boy, I tell you what, so I beat this game back in the day, but I play it off and on just because it's fun, and I have the cartridge, and it's you know, I have a lot of nostalgia for it. But I was like, before we talk about it, I should go through and just run through it one more time. It's a pretty short game. Let me just, remind myself of, and I was like, this game's fucking infuriating.
Infuriating.
Oh,
shit.
Brent throws his beer.
Spikes it on the ground.
But
those fucking puns are everywhere in the game.
My God. And I will say, to the game's credit, probably the best voice samples I've ever heard in a Super Nintendo game. Like, in terms of clarity, you can understand what he's saying. Each level, Bubsy introduces with some kind of stupid fur-based pun.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a bridge too fur, and he comes back and goes, more like a bridge too short.
More like a bridge too short.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
That was one where it's like, Clint got away with it.
Well, it worked for Clint.
And it's the game is just brimming with charm and personality. It has that going for it. But the fucking gameplay, we alluded to it earlier. So yeah, when you sit down with this game, it really feels like it wants to be a Sonic clone, like you said. But Sonic, as you said, is more forgiving, and Sonic, the level designs are laid out in such a way that there's intentionality to it. You can see, okay, you're meant to get hit here so that you stop and see this thing. Or you're meant to, slow down at this point, and so they add a loop or whatever. Bubsy, it feels like they took Sonic and dropped him into another game that wasn't designed around his abilities and limitations. And what makes it worse is two things. One, the fucking hitboxes are all over the goddamn place.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we were talking about my favorite world is the theme park.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and it's super cute, you can jump in a roller coaster car and ride it up and down the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super fun. Except if you land on the edge of one of the seats, like at the beginning or end of the car, instead of directly in the seat, if you jump and you miss by a pixel, it kills you.
Yeah.
You're jumping into a vehicle. Like, it would be like if in fucking Metal Slug, you jumped onto the tank gun instead of right in the center, it killed you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, I'm meant to do this, game. You want me to do this. Yeah. Why are you punishing me?
And then if you stay on the cart too long and the cart reaches the end and then like drops down,
you can't jump out.
Yeah, it doesn't give you the opportunity to fucking jump out. Like, It's so bizarre.
Yeah. The choices that were made, like, yeah, the hitboxes for everything are bigger than the sprites. And if you know anything about game design at all, you know that the hitbox should either match the sprite or be slightly smaller than the sprite. Like, if I intersect with a thing and I get hit, that's fine. But if I am 2 pixels away from the thing, I shouldn't be getting hit. And there's so many cases in Bubsy where the hitbox is bigger than the thing. Like in the first world, there are these cute little yellow taxi cars that are like scooting around. And they're really fast. Okay, cool. I'm really fast. That's fine. Right? And the actual like responsiveness, the ease of control of Bubsy's great. Like, you can jump around, you can move very fluidly and quickly. It should be fun to navigate things like this. It should be, but it fucking isn't, because the hitboxes are huge, and it suffers from Donkey Kong Country 1 syndrome, where the screen runs away from you. You go so fast, and the screen doesn't catch up, so that Bubsy is constantly at the far edge of the screen. So you have no reaction time. Your character should always remain fairly centered in a 2D platformer. Yeah. And they give you the option to, like Donkey Kong Country solves this problem the same way, by letting you stop and look up, down, left, right, and move the screen around. But you can't do that while running. So again, it's punishing you in a game about speed for going fast.
Yeah. And at least some other games solve the problem where if you're going fast, the screen will zoom out. So yeah, you can kind of see what's coming ahead.
Yes.
They don't give you any time.
Yeah.
Like, it's a game that wants you, because while Bubsy can move around really fluidly, if you want to run fast, you actually have to build momentum.
Yeah, he has a lot of momentum.
Yeah, he has to build momentum. He can't just, get into a spin dash like Sonic and just take off. No, he has to start, like, kind of walking and then jogging, then he can start taking off running. And it's so frustrating because it takes, like, you feel like you're walking through mud, and then suddenly you take off, and then you get hit by a fucking piano coming down the hill that you only had a very split second to dodge. It's so fucking frustrating. It's like, they clearly want me to run here, but they are fucking me over for doing it.
Yes. And it's such a perfect example. Like, if you were teaching game design, you're like, hey, how do you want your player to approach the game? And once you've decided that, you have to build the levels in such a way that it encourages the player to play that way. Look at Castlevania. Castlevania wants you to go slow, to be meticulous, to be thoughtful in your movements and actions. And so it designs the levels in such a way that if you just blaze through it as fast as you can, you'll die. If you go slow, you'll notice patterns, and you'll be able to compensate for, like, all of the enemies in Castlevania have very identifiable patterns, which if you go slow, you'll be able to see and respond to. Right? That's how it wants you to play. Sonic wants you to go fast. So it gives you the opportunity to take a hit and recover. It builds momentum into the level design so that you're constantly going fast, unless you stop yourself from doing so. It rewards the player for tackling it the way it wants to be tackled. I just was mentioning Super Meat Boy. Super Meat Boy wants you to go as fast as you possibly fucking can. And actually, all over Super Meat Boy, there are jumps and there are obstacles that you will not be able to avoid or will not be able to make unless you are going maximum speed. And so you learn, okay, this game wants me to go fucking fast, and it does not punish me for doing that. It rewards me for doing that. And yeah, the thing that I like how I started this with like, I love Bubsy. It's so cute. And it is. It's a charming game. It's beautiful and sweet and fun.
Because I think for me, he wasn't really a silent protagonist.
No.
He had his own personality.
Absolutely.
And it was one of the first games where you get that. Because Sonic didn't talk.
No.
Mario didn't talk.
Right.
He talked. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, God. And fucking fall damage. Why? He's a cartoon cat, an animal that is known to always land on its feet. I get it, if you drop a cat from a high enough point, yeah, you're gonna kill it. But he's a cartoon cat. Why does he have fall damage?
Fucking core memory unlocked.
Yeah.
Thank you. I remember we rented this game, and my dad was playing it, and my dad playing Bubsy fell off missed a landing or whatever and fell a long way. And there's this again, the animation is great in this game. When Bubsy falls from a great height, he squishes and compacts like a Bugs Bunny character, a fucking Looney Tunes character, and then gets up and walks away like an accordion with a little accordion noise. It's super cute.
Yeah.
But my dad just set the controller down, very, very, very adult, very mature, stood up and said, "Cats always land on their fucking feet," and walked away.
Yeah. Because again, it goes to the hitbox is already a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But then you're going to add fucking fall damage.
Yeah.
Something that's not really common in any platformer at this point. Simon Belmont could fucking dive all the way down damn near the entire Leaning Tower of Pisa, and he'd be fine.
Right.
He would superhero land that shit, and it's oh, well, I guess I got to work my way back up. Mario could dive off of a castle, no problem.
Right.
Sonic could jump off a goddamn plane.
And does.
Yeah. He fucking falls from orbit.
Yeah.
Lands on Tails' plane. No problem.
Right.
Bubsy falls the equivalent of 30 feet. Fucking accordion.
Yes.
Come on. Jesus. At least if you're smart enough to remember to hit the glide button.
Yeah.
Fine, but I should be able to hit the glide button, then release it, and then still be able to fall a short distance.
Yeah.
The game is fuck that.
Yeah. And I will say, the glide button, so this is where I will stick up for the game, because this is really fun. And we were talking a little bit before we started recording. I had almost forgotten how much fun it is because Bubsy can glide. It's not like, the Tanuki suit in Mario 3 or anything. It's not that. You don't have that level of control. And he feels heavy, like you were saying. He feels heavy, he falls pretty quickly. But what you can do is you can chain landing on woolies or other opponents, and every time if you keep your finger on the glide button, when he hits them, he'll bounce off and generate more lift. And so you can chain hitting enemies and sort of float over the whole level, Super Mario World style with the cape. And that's really fun. But the thing is, to do that, you have to have the level memorized already. And so this is one of those games where it can be really fun, but you have to have it memorized already. And for a game that is sort of selling itself as a sweet, kid-friendly platformer, it's not that. It's almost like a shmup, where you have to have all the enemy patterns memorized before you sit down to play, or you're going to have a real bad time.
Even when you're picking up speed and you start running and you don't even hit an actual enemy, you hit a box.
Yeah.
Or something, and you smack into it. It'll kill you. It's God damn it. Why are you punishing me for something you clearly want me to do? I didn't even hit an enemy. I just hit an environmental obstacle, and you fucking killed me for it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the music a little bit, because I thought this was really fascinating. So I think it's super fun, and it gets stuck in my head, especially the opening theme that It's super cute.
The wind music is also really good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so catchy. They really put with what limited technology they had, they made some memorable music.
Yeah.
And it's very simplistic, but it's catchy. That's the important thing. And catchy is also a negative thing too, because the amount of times I died on the second level, the carnival level, I learned to hate that song. Yeah. I love it, but I also hate it because it always starts the same way. The da 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 da. And like I'm sitting there like after my 10th death, and I'm just like, I'm gonna kill my parents. I'm gonna throw the game out the window. Like
it's
I'm going to stab every animal that I see. Like just insanity, because it's oh my god, it just replays over and over and over again.
Yes.
Like when I went back and started replaying the game, I felt like my body was sweating at one point. I'm like, oh, I remember like, this level of hate.
It's the Barney theme. Like it's that level of like pain, but with a perky song playing in the background. Yeah, if you're going to make it that hard, it needs to have calming music, right? Like, again, like I was referencing Celeste earlier.
For what it is, the carnival music matches the carnival.
Yes.
It's great, but after you hear it restarting for the upteenth time, you want it to punch every clown in the face.
If the game was less punishing, the annoyance of the music would go away, because the music is great. And what I thought was really interesting, so I looked this up. The guy who did the music for this is Matthew Berardo. And he only did video game soundtracks for like 3 years.
Yeah, he played the fucking game he made music for and quit.
Well, okay, so he did the music for Lode Runner. He did the music for SimAnt.
Oh, right on. That's
cool.
He
did the music for this. Like, he had a bunch of credits in like a 3-year span, and then he just disappears. So I don't know, like, if something happened to him, or if he developed a real bad coke habit, or what. But he vanishes into the fucking mists of time, and there's like no record of him after about like 1995. So make of that what you fucking will, I guess.
He joined a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah, just... After making all the music for the game and having to play test it, he was just like, you know what? I don't really care for humanity.
I just picture like this poor dude in the Bubsy mascot suit, but like in a fun...
Maybe that was him. They made him do it, and that's why he gave up on life.
But like him in like some cheap hotel in Reno, just like coked out.
Yeah, you see like his worn out prostitute laying backwards on his bed, and he's sitting there just staring at the mirror, and he's got like big black bags under his eyes. He punches the mirror in disgust at what he sees.
He's just holding a bottle of Jim Beam, sitting on the edge of the bed. There's like 3 prostitutes sprawled out. Yeah. And he's just sitting there going...
The nightstand has the cigarette ashtray. Oh, no, if it's Vegas, it'd be the carnival theme.
Yeah.
Like ashtray full of like, burnt out cigarettes and whatever. Flashing neon light outside the window that's going on and off and on and off, just lighting his depressed face. Fuck, now it's real to me. I gotta stop with my imagination. Don't let it run wild. Or, he might be listening to our shitty podcast in that hotel room, and I hope he, turns his life around. Like,
yeah.
It gets better, buddy.
Yeah. We're here for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can keep making music. I believe in you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the fucking SimAnt music is great also. Like, I played the shit out of SimAnt as a kid. Probably because it was one of like 4 games that was available for the Mac. So I would have played fucking Cornhole if it had a Mac port.
Jesus.
All right. Let's talk about the
legacy
of Bubsy, because I think it's fascinating. So this game, I don't know that we mentioned it, but was designed by a guy named Michael Berlin, who mostly had done like point-and-click adventures prior to this, which I think makes a lot of sense. Hey, it's beautiful, it looks good, it sounds good, gameplay fucking sucks. And he's a guy who really hadn't had to deal with gameplay before. But I just thought this was interesting. So he did work on, there was a sequel, Bubsy 2, that came out on Super Nintendo, I know at least.
Yeah.
May have come out on Genesis as well.
Yeah, it's more or less the same game though.
Yeah,
just
it's more.
The levels are different.
More of that.
Gameplay didn't really change at all.
Yeah, it's got like some like different theming, but yeah, other than that, it's pretty typical mid-90s sequel, just more of that. And then he also worked on Bubsy 3D for the PlayStation.
That poor bastard.
Which is the most bafflingly bad game I've ever played. So I played it a little bit for this episode, and I'd always heard that it was like horrifically bad. But it was so shocking to me. Like it's almost uncontrollable.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
I feel like during... So if you look at the years it came out, I think that they were desperately working towards something kind of like Mario 64.
Yeah.
And they just could not execute it.
Absolutely.
There was just no fucking way it was going to happen.
It has a fixed camera angle that's at this weird sort of isometric... Like it's 3D-ish. You're looking down at Bubsy, and it makes it so it's impossible to judge distance in any meaningful way. And it's got these big open levels, which this is, I think, a problem with early 3D platformers generally, is that they kind of didn't know what to have you do. So they just kind of created big open sandboxes where you would collect a lot of things, and that whole collectathon subgenre, which I hated, and is part of the reason why I sort of stumbled out of the block going into the 3D gaming space. Because again, I didn't know about all these JRPGs and shit because nobody around me played them. They played one-on-one fighters, platformers, and fucking sports games. But yeah, it is bad enough that it makes sense to me why people hate all of the Bubsy series, just because Bubsy 3D is bad enough that it takes all the joy out of the other two. I wanted to talk just slightly about Michael Berlin because I thought this was fascinating. So after Bubsy 3D, he worked on a couple other games, and then he walked away from the gaming industry.
While in mid-development of Siphon Filter,
yes,
according to my notes, which was bizarre.
Exactly.
Which was a solid fucking game.
It is. It's fucking a lot better than Bubsy 3D.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I love this quote, because if you think about how cute and sweet Bubsy is,
yes,
this makes a lot of sense. And here's the quote. I did not like what the game business had become, the people who were driving it, or the nature of the product. I left before it was done and said, do not put my name on the product. I walked away from my own company. When you tell me you want to put a monk or a nun in my game and have them standing there holding guns so I can justify having the players shoot them, I think that crosses the boundaries of good taste. It doesn't offend me, but it's got to be in bad taste, and you have to know that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thinking back to like late 90s, like Daikatana era video game design, I'm like, oh yeah, like the era where video game design was becoming increasingly bro-y. I could see that being really distasteful to a lot of people.
A lot of the super macho,
oh my God,
kind of the video game era of the 80s action movie for the most part.
Yeah.
As technology progressed the way it did, and they're able to make things more realistic. They're able to add more complex designs.
Era, we can call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut up about Metal Gear Solid. Shut up about Metal Gear Solid. We already talked about it. Shut up. No, we can come back to it. I really like Metal Gear Solid a lot. I actually went and played, what was it, Phantom Pain? Not too long ago.
I was playing the second one.
Yeah.
A little bit. That was really fun.
Yeah.
I did that on vacation.
Shut up about Metal Gear Solid.
Decoy octopus.
Oh my God. So these fucking nerds actually did change their Discord names Like they said in the episode, I don't know if it got cut out, but they were like, "Oh my god, that's my new fucking handle."
Yes, so
they both of them did it, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna be part of the team.
Yeah. So if you see Psyconfig Mantis, that's Benny, and Decoy Drunctopus is me on our Discord now.
I'll change mine to like less sexy Meryl or something.
Yeah. Those 3 polygons that make up her booty, boy, it's really getting me going.
God.
Okay. And then I just have one more thing I wanted to talk about in terms of legacy, because it's incredible. Kirk, are you familiar with Bubsy 3D? Bubsy visits the James Turrell retrospective.
Can't say I'm familiar with that, Brent.
Okay, so this is a fan game created as a tribute to the 20th anniversary of Bubsy. So what would that be? 2013. It uses assets ripped out of Bubsy 3D, and it is a psychological horror game.
God. As if the game wasn't a psychological horror game.
I was gonna say,
like the actual game.
Yeah, I would argue that Bubsy 3D is very ominous because it's just these giant empty spaces with these like low poly monsters just kind of sitting around.
I'm telling you, it was their take at trying to, or Sony's take for like a Mario 64 to try to compete.
Right.
Didn't give them enough time. Said like, you got a year
to
make something similar or you're fired.
But so Bubsy 3D, Bubsy Visits the James Turrell retrospective is free. It's available. I'll have the link in the show notes. Please go download it. It is bizarre to the point where I found myself laughing out loud. You are Bubsy. You walk into the Los Angeles County Museum where they're having a retrospective on the modern artist James Turrell. An interview with James Turrell is playing over the top as you walk around and interact with people. They talk to you about their feelings on James Turrell's art. And then you
holy shit, this game has its own fucking Wikipedia page.
Yeah. It's a full ass
What
thing.
the fuck?
You I don't want to spoil the ending because it is one of the more bizarre things that I've ever seen, and I lived through the 2000s era of the internet, so I've seen some real bizarre shit. My anus is bleeding.
Oh man, Don Hertzfeld. I fucking love Don Hertzfeld.
Salad Fingers. But yeah,
wait, he didn't do Salad Fingers.
I thought he did.
No,
that's not him.
No, Don Hertzfeld is the Rejected cartoon, Billy's Balloon.
Yeah,
did he really? No,
I thought that was the same guy. Well, in any case, very strange era. So I feel like I'm if anything, I am qualified to say that this game is one of the more bizarre things I've ever seen. The transition from the museum to the rest of the game is pretty great. You lay down in a coffin, and then it turns into the bonus levels from the Genesis Sonic games where you're like sliding around, collecting coins, but you're in a coffin going down into hell. I'll spoil it up to that point, and then you got to experience it past that yourself.
Oh my god, I'm watching videos of this, and I'm like, what the hell is this game? What? Wow, for their interpretation of hell, that's pretty good.
Right.
The dancing skeletons are kind of throwing me off though.
Oh, and you'll have to listen to the music too, because it's very.
What the fuck is this game? Oh no, this is like a creepypasta, but someone took it a little too seriously.
Well, and I love because earlier before we started recording, Kirk was like, I'm really hoping that somebody like there'll be like a fan project or something to revive it, and it's like, yeah, there was, and they revived the worst part of the series.
No, my fan remake was more along the lines of like Sonic Mania, where eventually Sega and Sonic Team were just like, go for it, we'll even help. Yeah. Like, this is solid, we love what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think
like that, not Jesus Christ, some sort of oh man, like the movie The Cell, but with like cartoon characters.
Yeah, The Cell plus Bubsy.
The Cell plus Bubsy.
The Cell plus low poly PS1 era Bubsy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a really good description. But yeah, that's so closing thoughts. If you have played Mario World and Sonic 2 and Donkey Kong Country and Air the Acrobat and every other 16-bit New Adventure Island, every other 16-bit platformer to death, and you just want another one, this is another one.
Yeah. And he's straight up shirt cocking it the entire time. I always love that. Like, I love characters like that where it's like, yeah, they're just like Donald Duck, just straight up shirt cocking it. Winnie the Pooh, shirt cocking it.
I really want to take, that meme where it's the Just Girl things and it's like when you wear his t-shirts.
Yeah.
But put Bubsy.
Yeah. One of them's wearing a white Bubsy, a red exclamation part T. Oh, man. I'm gonna bitch about one more thing.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Some of the either injury or death animations take way the fuck too long.
Yeah.
And feel free to cut this part, Brent, and move it to another part.
Sure.
But so sometimes you're running really fast, but not fast enough to kill you if you run into a stationary object, but fast enough to concuss you, basically.
Right.
There is no shit like a 6 fucking second animation of him being unconscious. And then he kind of comes to and starts swatting at the birds above his head.
Yeah.
Which is cute.
It is.
But you can't cancel the fucking animation.
Right.
You can't, like, having that as just an idle animation, like, ha ha ha, this is funny, I want to watch it. That's fine. But the actual ability to not skip it is bullshit. I fucking hate it. The same thing of, I think it's, I'm just going to call it like World 5 or 6. It's the one where there's like actual clear water and things swimming in it, and you can make it like razor lore or whatever.
Oh, yes.
But if you land in that water, you have to watch the whole fucking animation of him sinking to the bottom, and then he kind of spins around and is just like, hi. Like, but you're dead. Like, that's so stupid. Like,
you know what? I never thought about
why not
this
have like a
before.
sad wet cat animation that's already in the game do that?
Yes.
Why do I have to sit here and wait? And one of the times, because the water level's high enough and I sunk low enough, it was like 10 to 15 seconds of just pure agony.
Just him sinking.
Oh my god! It's like, why? Let me skip this. Oh, fuck.
Well, and I didn't think...
Love this game. 10 out of 10. Best game.
I never thought about it till this moment, but the fact that Michael Berlin mostly worked on point and clicks before this, it's like all these like really elaborate animations. It's like, oh yeah, that's 100% something you'd see in like Monkey Island.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or like King's Quest. Mm-hmm. Which is fine in those games. Not action-based games.
Yeah, not what's supposed to be a fast-paced platformer.
All right. So in short, he says 2 hours into the recording. In short, Bubsy 3D is the answer to Bubsy's question, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, that and it's very, very fitting. The very last level, he says as it starts, are you still playing this game?
Right?
Or what, are you still playing this game? Something along those lines. But I'm like, right? No, as a kid, I got only as far as the after the Western.
Yeah.
So I think that's like kind of the more rainforesty kind of jam.
The vertical.
Yeah, with
levels.
the fucking water slides that go up. Chaos.
The water slides are evil.
Yeah.
They make me...
You think that they're there to help you? Oh, no, they're not.
No.
They're almost exclusively not.
Nothing in this game is here to help you.
No.
With that, thank you for joining us. If you like what we're doing, please come join us on Discord. Tell us how much you like or hate Bubsy. Or please, for the love of God, play Bubsy 3D, Bubsy Visits the James Turrell retrospective, and then come tell me your thoughts, because I've yet to actually meet anyone who's played this before, and it is, oh my god, it's so bizarre. We are on YouTube, we're on Amazon, we're on Spotify. Yeah, come engage with us.
Hit that like button as if you're a kitty hitting a yarn ball, and
there you go.
Yeah. Hit that subscribe and pop up in the air and float around like Bubsy. Other analogy, number 3.
Other analogy. All right, and we will talk at you soon.
Shit in the cat box as if it were a toilet. But I think that's what they're kind of supposed to do. And like. Yeah.
Well, it's like the joke my dad always used to tell, which is the what's the difference between a truckload of bowling balls and a truckload of dead babies?
I don't know, Brent. What?
You can't unload a truckload of bowling balls with a pitchfork.
Holy shit. I don't think I'd ever heard that one, so that was awesome.
That's probably not going to make it in the podcast either.